Ambassador Volker, I want to ask you about something in your opening statement. With respect to the July 10th meeting, you testify, I participated in the July 10 meeting between National Security Advisor Bolton and then Ukrainian Chairman of the National Security and Defense Council, Alex Danliuk. As I remember, the meeting was essentially over when Ambassador Sondland made a generic comment about investigations. I think all of us thought it was inappropriate. The conversation did not continue, and the meeting concluded. Ambassador Volker, we asked you about that meeting during your deposition, and you told us nothing about this. I believe we asked you about why the meeting came to an end and why you had earlier indicated, I think, to Ambassador Taylor that it did not go well. And your answer was that Danliuk was in the weeds on national security policy. Why didn't you tell us about this?
Because that's what I remembered from the meeting, what I provided in my October 3rd statement. As I said, I've learned other things, including seeing the statements from Alex Vindman and from Fiona Hill, and that reminded me that, yes, at the very end of that meeting, as was recounted in Colonel Vindman's statement, I did remember that, yes, that's right, Gordon did bring that up, and that was it.
So at the time we deposed you, and I think we were there for 6, 7, or 8 hours, and we were asking you specifically about what you knew about these investigations. You didn't remember that Gordon Sondland had brought this up in the July 10th meeting with Ukrainians, and Ambassador Bolton called an end to the meeting. Ambassador Bolton described that meeting as some drug deal that Sondland and Mulvaney cooked up. You had no recollection of that?
Right. So in terms of Gordon bringing it up, no, I did not remember that at the time of my October 3rd testimony. I read the account by Alex, and that jogged my memory. I said, yes, that's right, that did happen. I do not, still to this point, recall it being an abrupt end to the meeting. The meeting was essentially over, and we got up, we went out to the little circle in front of the White House, we took a photograph. It did not strike me as abrupt.
Now, Ambassador Volker, you said in your written testimony today, I think all of us thought it was inappropriate. Now, if, as you say, Ambassador Sondland only mentioned investigations in the Bolton meeting, and you don't recall hearing him be more specific, although others have testified that he was in the wardroom, why did you think it was inappropriate?
Yeah, I thought it was put it this way, something of an eye roll moment where you have a meeting, you're trying to advance the substance of the bilateral relationship. We have the head of the National Security and Defense Council. It was a disappointing meeting because I don't think that the Ukrainians got as much out of that in terms of their presentation as they could have. And then this comes up at the very end of the meeting. It's like, this is not what we should be talking about.
But Ambassador, you've said that you think it was appropriate to ask the Ukrainians to do investigations of 2016 and Burisma, as long as Burisma didn't mean the Bidens, right. Something you have now, I think, understand you should have seen otherwise. But nonetheless, if it was appropriate, why are you saying today that all of us thought it was inappropriate?
Yeah, because it was not the place or the time to bring up that. This was a meeting between the National Security Advisor and the Chairman of the National Security and Defense Council. First high-level meeting we're having between Ukraine and the United States after President Zelensky's election.
Well, is part of the reason it was inappropriate also that it was brought up in the context of trying to get the White House meeting?
Possibly, although I don't recall that being, I know this was the Council's question, I don't remember the exact context of when that came up. I viewed the meeting as essentially having ended.
I think you said in your updated testimony that you do think it's inappropriate and objectionable to seek to get a foreign government to investigate a political rival. Am I right?
To investigate the Vice President of the United States or someone who is a U.S. official, I don't think we should be asking foreign governments to do that. I would also say that's true of a political rival.
And you recognized when you got the call record, when you finally did see the call record, that's what took place in that call, correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Morrison, Mr. Volker thinks it's inappropriate to ask a foreign head of state to investigate a U.S. person, let alone a political rival, but you said you had no concern with that. Do you think that's appropriate?
As a hypothetical matter, I do not.
Well, I'm not talking about a hypothetical matter. Read the transcript. In that transcript, does the president not ask Zelensky to look into the Bidens?
Mr. Chairman, I can only tell you what I was thinking at the time. That is not what I understood the president to be doing.
But nonetheless, this was the first and only time where you went from listening to a presidential call directly to the national security lawyer, is it not?
Yes, that's correct.
And I think you've said that your concern was not that it was unlawful, but that it might leak. Is that right?
That is correct.
Now, the problem with it leaking is that what would be leaking is a president asking a foreign head of state to investigate Mr. Biden. Isn't that the problem?
Well, I believe I stated I had sort of three concerns about what the impact of the call leaking might be.
Well, if it was a perfect call, would you have had a concern of it leaking?
No. Well, no, I would still have a concern about it leaking.
Okay. And would you have thought it was appropriate if President Trump had asked Zelensky to investigate John Kasich, or to investigate Nancy Pelosi, or to investigate Ambassador Volker? Would that be appropriate?
In those hypothetical cases, no, not appropriate.
But you're not sure about Joe Biden?
Sir, again, I can only speak to what I understood at the time and why I acted the way I did at the time.